Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project, session number 195, episode 195. My name is Glenn Gers, and I come to you every Monday through Friday, if I can make it, to let you look over my shoulder, share my screen as I write a script. And I do this in order to teach a part of screenwriting that I think is kind of under-taught, which is the actual just day-to-day, line-by-line process of writing a script. The formulating your ideas into scenes, into an outline, into a rough draft, into a rewrite, rewriting and rewriting and rewriting, making a script. Not a great script, just a script. Doesn't matter what kind of script it is. Every script is based in the same principle. You write in scenes, you put the scenes in order, you get them on the page. And honestly, most screenwriting seems to talk about the theory of all those scenes, but not the how do you actually write them? How do you figure out some rough idea of what the action is and who says what and get it into some shape and then reshape it? That's the process. And that's what this is about. Process. I am not trying to tell you that this is the only way to do it. It's not the best way to do it. It's not the guaranteed surefire money-making way to do it. It's just a thing that I think is useful. Just some techniques, tools, tricks, skills that you might be able to use when you face the blank page. So I'm letting you watch me walk through it in case those tools are useful. If they are not, don't use them. Not a big deal. Also, don't watch all of these. You do not have to watch 195 hours to get the message. Any particular hour will do it. You watch a couple, you'll get some different points. Every single time I work it on it, I get some new challenge, some new idea. I say it in a new way. So pick it up here, pick it up there. Watch it when you feel like. There is no requirement to do them all. There is, however, I urge you to check out the other sections of my channel where I do have very, very valuable material in the first three sections: screenwriting essentials, screenwriting tools, skills, and craft, and the process, being the writer. These are the sections where I've tried to condense what I know on a certain topic, and I put the topic there in the thumbnail in big, bold letters: dramatic action, genre, flashbacks. I just try and get some basic, useful ideas that you can take or leave as you like, because every writer has to figure out their own way. There is no right or wrong way. Whatever way is productive for you and healthy for you and fits in your reality, that's the right way for you to do it. So all I'm trying to do is say, when you're doing your thing, this might be a useful tool. Because I have to tell you, when I was trying to teach myself, there wasn't almost no film schools or film books when I was starting because I'm old. I had to figure this stuff out for myself, and I found that more and more, when I was trying to understand a problem, getting it down to some really basic principle, like think in scenes, like what is the action, like use what you have. I found myself coming back to these over and over, and they were useful to me. And I found that the most useful thing was not to get into some fancy convoluted theory, but just what's the scene about? That's what helped me, so I'm trying to show it to you. Let me do a quick hello to a lot of people, because a lot of people are here saying hello. Hello, Natasha. Hello, this is Kitschy. Hi, Donna. Thank you for your message. I really appreciate that. Hi, Cyrus. And do you not dare apologize. There are no stupid questions. There are just questions. Like I said, the reason I'm doing this is because I had all these questions when I was working and I didn't know the answers for myself. Everybody runs into the same stupid questions. Hi, Ad Hoc Heart. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Jessica. I don't think I've met you before. Jessica Casimir. Hello, Jean. Hello, Zira. Great to see all of you. Gosh, there's a lot of people here. So let's get to work, because that's really the point of all this, not me. Work. The work. Now, if you recall, I had made a new outline because I'm trying to figure out where to put these new scenes when I realized that I want to rewrite this pilot in order to change a basic principle, which was these Zoom meetings over and over again. So what I was doing was just going through and putting in, I put them in a color so that I can see them and say, that's not done. That thing has to be attended to. So that's what I did here with these. And this is just a super reduced version of the outline, so that I can conceptualize scene. And those scenes, most of these scenes are in pretty good shape, actually. So I've got them here in this simple black type. But now and then I'll have one where it's like, I need to rethink that. So I put it in a different color. That is just my own way I use the outline, so that I can use the outline sort of like a things to do list. As I go through the outline, I'm going to be like, oh, when I look at this scene, I have to remember to do these things. And when I've done them, I cut them out so that it starts to look more like this. Ideally, by the time I'm done, it's all like this. Just a list of scenes, not a lot of information, because the information went into the script. All right. So here's the thing. When I thought about this idea, the story is about these two people, Madeline, the ex-wife of the murder victim, and Norman, who's kind of a stealthy spy in the group of Websleuths. They get dragged into meeting each other because Xena, the head of the group, needs to get evidence out of George's house, and Madeline is not interested in letting them in. She doesn't care about this group. So what I originally did was I had this Zoom meeting, because that's how they always meet. And then I had more Zoom meetings. And I'm now thinking, I don't think there should be all these Zoom meetings. But, and this was the thing I realized, you still can have one. It's not the worst thing in the world. So the original Zoom meeting where Xena is reporting to everyone, well, that's how it would happen. Like this is a group. I have created this group of characters who meet on Zoom every week to try and, sort of like a book club, solve cold cases. So we need to see that. So I think that is okay. That scene, I'm beginning to think, this is in pretty good shape. The only thing that we need to do, that scene needs a little work, but then what's going to happen here is I have to figure out where other people leave to end up in George's front yard when the scene happens. And this is what I was talking about yesterday in my notes. I said, who has to get there and when? Well, Xena, Norman, and Dundosky leave early. Dundosky leaves because he's on a mission. Norman leaves to stop Dundosky, and Xena leaves because this is all her idea. However, there's 4 other characters. Hello, Excuse My Back podcast. I assume that's Excuse My Back, not Excuse My Back podcast. And good afternoon to you. And hey, AK Sloth, I am glad to meet you. I've never seen you here before, and I'm so glad you're here. Jairo Nunez, hello, I'm new to your channel, and I'm coming from a computer science background, so my brain is based on logic. What would be the best way to unlock the fantastic creative way to start writing? A good question, a fair question. Here's what I'm going to say. I've done a bunch of videos about process. The first one I would suggest is this one. Create a ritual. Please watch that one. And then the other one you might want to look at is process of questions. But the main thing is I think you need to look at this one. It's about instinct. It's about how when it really comes down to it, a big part of creativity is just doing what you feel. There is not actually a logic. Like what I'm doing right now. I am working out the logistics, the logic of how people can get from various places around America to this one location in Pennsylvania. That's a logic problem, yeah. But you know what? You're going to be good at that, right? You're computer science. You're going to figure that out pretty easily. What you're not going to be comfortable with is saying, okay, you know, how do they get there, and what kind of creative differences are there in these different people? The stuff that you're just making up, and there is no logic. So the thing I would suggest most is practice. Practice being not illogical, because a lot of creativity is logical. It's just creative first. It's coming from instinct. So that I would say is one thing. And the other thing I would say is here, brainstorming. Brainstorming is a really creative way to apply yourself to a specific problem. In other words, not thinking that you have to give up on logic in order to be creative. That's my main thought. Tavana's got a message. Hi. Oh, that's so great. I'm very, very glad. Go to sleep, Tavana. Get some rest. It's like midnight there. You are entirely welcome, and I am so glad that I think it's great that you got notes. Notes are good. Just showing it to people, you see it differently. It washes your own brain. Half the time when you get notes, the tricky thing about getting notes is that you don't really get the note you need, but the note makes you give yourself a note. Like you say, well, that's not right, but this is. Or they give you a note and they're trying to solve something. The way they solve it is useless, but the thing they're trying to solve is something you have to say, I have to solve that. So notes are a complicated thing. You just don't do what people tell you. Hey, Maritalatoso, good to see you. So I hope that that's a good start. Jairo, let me know if I'm pronouncing your name properly. The biggest thing I would say is, once again, this video on instinct is a good start. All right. Okay. Also, by the way, about creativity, the more that you work in characters, the more that you explore the human beings, the more you're going to be fantastical and creative, honestly, because human beings are where the creativity really goes in stories. There is no logic to human beings. Okay, there may be a psychological, there may be some determinism, there may be some this happened because of this happened, but the truth is human beings are all over the place. And the more that you focus on that, the more that you don't say, this has to be this way because this sort of person does this sort of thing, and the more you just say, this particular person that I am making up, who are they and why are they the way they are? That's going to bring forth creativity. All right. So, let me get back to this issue, which is, when do they get there? And then I thought, here's the problem. Some of them don't get there because, if you recall, in the story, Shrimpton has left the group, and the last time we see her, she is working on not getting back into them. So either Shrimpton has to be not there, or I really like the scene of Shrimpton not being involved. So that's a good one. Now, the question is, oh, that's not right. Boom. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just trying to, so then the question becomes, is there a scene of Shrimpton deciding to come back, or is that in a later episode? Because the important thing to remember here is this is just the pilot, and therefore not everything is going to get resolved here. So what I'm thinking is, if not, then she shouldn't be in the final meeting. Currently, she is. So, boom. All right. So this is an interesting. This is like one of the things where I caught myself doing something without really thinking it through. The actual logic, and this is where you do need logic to say, like, okay, last time we saw this person, they were on this track. Oh, and this is really important. I urge you to think in terms of character arcs, okay? Let me make that a little smaller. This video, Building Character Arcs, what I talk about is like Shrimpton, the character of Shrimpton. We could track her through this story. We only see her 3 or 4 times in this story. The first time we see her, she is attending a Zoom meeting for these people who are taking a drastic new move, and she doesn't like it, so she quits the group. Then the next time we see her, she is kind of sad that she quit the group. Do we see her again? And if so, when and how does she decide to come back? AK, let me see. Is it good to have more than one plot twist in a story? Okay, this depends on what you mean by plot twist, because a plot twist is a tricky thing. Let's talk about this. This is a good question. It's serious. Hold on. I'm gonna screen grab that so that I remember it. Okay. Plot twists. If you define a plot twist as a point in the story where things change so radically that you actually re-examine the story as a whole. For instance, sometimes you'll be like, oh, it turns out these 2 separate characters are actually one person. Or, oh, this whole thing is a dream. Those kind of plot twists, the big plot twist, where like I like that definition of plot twist because the point is the plot literally gets twisted and it's now going in an entirely different direction. Those, you usually only have one of those. Plot developments, things that happen in the plot, you have a lot of those. You have one, almost every scene. That is the difference, is that when you think about plot twists, where it's like, oh my God, I didn't realize that this entire town is actually inside a glass of water. You don't want to have like, oh, and then, by the way, it's actually, a dream. And by the way, it's the on another planet. You don't want to do a lot of those. It's very hard to sustain more than one plot twist, one huge plot change, a reversal or revelation. A plot twist is when something is either revealed or changes so substantially that it's almost like the story is a different story. You can get away with that once. And honestly, that's not required in any story. You don't have to have a plot twist. Plot twists have become fashionable. But the truth is, a lot of stories are just, I'm going to follow this and follow the way that the people work through it, which is in itself suspenseful, dramatic, emotional. There are changes, there are revelations, but it's not like you suddenly say, oh, and I'm trying not to give away plot twists by using real ones. So I would just say, a lot of most great movies don't actually have a plot twist. And then there are some that have one. It also depends on whether or not when you talk about, is it good to have a plot twist in a story? A story could be, if a story is a series, then I'm not sure how many you can have because a series has a lot of room. If you look at like Mr. Robot has several plot twists, like major ones, like, oh my God, this story is not what I thought it was. They pull off an extraordinary number of plot twists. But that's a series. That's I don't know how many hours. That's like 40, 50 hours. If it's a movie, you really can only do one. Now, so my basic thing is, but that does not mean you don't have changes in a story. In any good story, you will have a lot, maybe a dozen big changes, things where it's like, oh, they were trying to break into the museum and then they fell through a hole in the ground and now they have to get out. And so they have to like build a tunnel to the other side of town. That's an unexpected part of the plot, but it's not a plot twist in the sense of like, oh, they're not actually going to a museum, that kind of thing where something is revealed in a way that totally shocks you. That's different from, oh, a thing happened where it's a new obstacle or a bit of information that changes the forward direction of the story, but doesn't take away the direction of the story. Am I making sense? It's an important distinction, I think. And one of the worst things that's happened is everyone in the business has gotten into the routine of thinking every story should have a plot twist. I'm going to use The Godfather because if you haven't seen it, you really should. I don't intend to spoil things, but I'm going to assume that a classic movie like this, you should have seen it. In the plot of The Godfather, there's no plot twist. There are plot developments. When Don Corleone is shot, that's a plot development. And spoilers, but honestly, you can follow this. You can enjoy this story if you know that Don Corleone is going to get shot. So the point is, when that happens, it's a change in the story, but it's not like, oh my God, Don Corleone is actually his own brother or something. It's something where it's like an entirely different story. The things that created that development in the story were hinted at and built towards before then. Further, the actions that Michael takes because of that are developments in the story that take it in a direction. What happens with Sonny is it's from the very beginning, you see the things that are going to make that happen. So what I'm saying is there are plot developments and plot twists. You should have a bunch of plot developments, as many as you can sustain. But you don't need a plot twist. If you have a plot twist, you're probably only going to have one. Something like The Prestige. Also, the thing about a plot twist is in order to have a plot twist, you need to have an alternative plot that you believe in. In other words, if you're going to reveal, like Fight Club has a major plot twist in the third act, that means you have to believe and care about the plot in the first two acts, even though it is essentially wrong. In other words, if all you're doing is setting up the third act, then the first two acts are going to be boring. So you can't do that. The thing about a good plot twist is on both sides of the twist, the audience has to be totally committed to what the story is. And they have to be able to go from one to the other without feeling cheated or like their time is being wasted or that they are no longer interested in the story. That's the danger of plot twists. Okay. Writing a short and love letting it flow. Yes, that's the thing. When you just sort of go with your instincts, just be prepared to then revise with your craft. Hi, Kirby. Writer's block. Yeah, that's interesting because the thing about writer's block is that almost always there's a should somewhere in there. You should be doing this. Like, should you have more plot twists or something? And so therefore, whenever somebody has writer's block, the first thing I ask them is, like, what do you think you're supposed to be doing that's making you not want to do the whole thing or to make you feel like you're not doing it right? Very likely that you ought to be doing it is just wrong. So good. All right. Yay. Okay, let's get back to this. So we now have the question of, and this scene, if she's resisting in day 4 morning, then she has to, at some point, okay. Hi, I write. Good to see you. Yes, yes. And now this is interesting. Shyamalan has indeed made a career out of plot twists. Everything he does has a big, like one big plot twist. There are other twists within the story, but the truth is he's decided that, and because of his success with his first one, everyone was like, hey, we got to do that. That's what made it good. Which is not true, because some of his work is good, some of his work isn't good. Anyway, all I would say is I don't think the entire world should be made by Night Shyamalan. I like his stuff, but I don't want just to watch it. It comes to a point where you go into it saying, okay, what's the twist? That's no fun. That's just it gets to the point where if you're so sure there's going to be a twist, you sort of discount the validity of the story itself. Writer's block can be emotional exhausted or lack of inspiration. Those things will generally get better if you just take a little time off. There's another kind of writer's block which doesn't get better if you take time off, and that's because you're going back to a contradiction that you can't handle. And it's always important to ask, what is it that's stopping me from writing? What actually is it? Sometimes it's just, I think I'm bad. And the question is, why do you think that? A. And 2, so what if you are? You're going to be better than some and worse than others. Everyone is better than some and worse than others. And everyone who is bad can get better. But you can't get better if you don't do your best. Do the best you can and then see what you can do the next time to do a little better. Anyway, so here's the thing. We need to decide who is actually showing up at this thing, because Shrimpton isn't. And Cameron isn't, because Cameron was specifically asked by not there. All right. Here's the thing. We've got these two characters. Xena left Cameron behind and said, hey, take care of my parents on their anniversary for me so that I can go do this thing. So Cameron, by definition of her role in the story, can't do it. Shrimpton didn't want to. Let's see. I can't describe a scene as I imagine it. Well, actually, you can. Think about it. Here's it. I got you. Here's the thing, Javier. When you say you have writers, you can't describe it. Well, you actually can. You just don't think it's good enough, right? You think there's something wrong with your description. If you have imagined it, you've done the work already. The thing you're not doing is the mechanical act of getting it down. One of the ways to get past that, if you can't describe a scene as you imagined it, is just practice describing things you imagine. Spend 6 months to a year, every time you sit down to write, just imagine something and write it down. Then set it aside. Don't judge it. Don't worry about it. Just imagine something and write it down. Get used to that process. Practice. That is the main thing that you need to do to get past a lot of what people call writer's block. Then ask yourself, if you can't imagine something, what is it that you're thinking instead? Because you'll be thinking something specific. You'll be thinking, I'm bad, or I'm not good enough. I'm not going to make a lot of money. That's one of the things. Just stop worrying about money for now. Worry about getting it to people and seeing what they think. That's the main thing, is that you may have added personal problems to an art problem. Remember, art problems have art solutions. Did I make that into a card? I think I did. Hold on. Yes. Boom. Art problems have art solutions. This is the most important thing that you need to know about in writer's block. Art problems have art solutions, which means if you have an art problem, you're only going to solve it with an artistic answer. And if you're saying, I have an art problem because it's not going to be good enough to get published, that's not an art problem. That's a publishing problem. That's a life problem. That's a competition problem. There's 1,000 other things that is, but that's not. If you're saying, I'm not good enough, I'm going to be judged, well, that has nothing to do with your art. It has to do with the person who's judging you. So you need to separate that out and remember that your art problem can be solved with an art solution. It may be bad, but it will still be solved. And if it's bad, then you can keep going. The thing that you can't keep going from is not working. Thank you very much. It is a nice shirt. Thank you. Hi, Anshul. Okay. So to get back to this story, we need to show, so if they're not there, let's get down to this. All right, so Cameron and Shrimpton are not there. Are they involved? If so, how are they connecting? Zoom, phone. All right. Which means we need to add McLean arriving, Ted arriving. We have now these two scenes that we have to get in there. Okay. Art is not everything. I will not say it. You need to eat. You need to have a roof over your head. You need to take care of a lot of life things in order to do art. That's really kind of my point, is that by taking the life stuff and saying, like, I need to have a good life and a good art life, your art will get better. Your art will not save you. You know, the art actually doesn't pay the rent. Most of the time, for most artists, art does not pay. That does not mean you should not do it. It means you should figure out some other way to pay your bills. The writer's block thing, that's complicated. Everybody's version of it is different, but it does break down to a couple of different things, most of which actually have a difficult but simple solution. Most writer's block comes down to inexperience. The solution is practice. Fear, which comes down to changing what you think you're going to accomplish so that the thing you fear, even if it happens, isn't so bad. So we've got inexperience, fear, or what I would call should. Some artificial goal that you have imposed for an external reason. My mom used to do that. My mom was an artist, painter, illustrator, and she never finished paintings because she felt like she wasn't as good as Rembrandt. And so therefore, and the question is, first of all, what's as good as? But second of all, no artist is another artist. That's the whole point of being an artist. The whole point of art is that it is unique and unique to the person who did it. So therefore, the most important thing you can do is figure out who you are, what your art is, because you're going to be good at that. That may not make money. Not everyone may love it, but that doesn't mean you're not good at it, and it doesn't mean it's not worth doing. The one thing you can't do is say, because I am not Andy Warhol, or I am not John Singer Sargent, or I am not the Beatles, I shouldn't be doing art. That's honestly an audience question. That's the sort of thing that people who aren't artists think, where they're judging art by cultural success or financial success. That's not how art works. That's like saying if you're not ranked as the #1 lawyer or doctor, you shouldn't be a lawyer or a doctor. That's a dumb idea. Anyway, okay. Okay, Anshul solved a problem. Well done. You can grow food. If you can grow food, first of all, art isn't everything, and therefore your art can be good. It can be better. I keep on missing these at the moment. I also like the shirt, yes. I'm sorry you missed them. They are always recorded. You will catch them. Here's the thing. I know the situation, the place, the issue. I have taking these ideas from my brain to paper. Okay, well, actually, when I have done it, I feel it's too boring. Okay, so that's actually interesting. You changed your story here. There's a big difference between I can't write it or when I write it, I think it's bad. Those two have very different solutions. The solution to the first one is write it anyway, even though you think it's going to be bad. If you're saying, I'm never getting anything down on the paper. If you're getting things down on paper and you think they are bad, stop judging them. Just like take that off the table for a while. You may not be the best judge of that. And then if you think it's boring, because a lot of times we think it's bad, not because we're actually judging it, because we're importing a fear. Like, I'm afraid someone will think it's boring, so I think it's boring. So I'm afraid it's boring, so I'm judging it as boring. In that case, you don't even have any idea if it's boring, because all you're doing is thinking, I'm afraid it's boring. So the only way to find that out is to show it to people, which means you have to finish it. You have to get it into some form as best you can and show it to people and see. And if it's boring, think about why. How could I make it not boring? There will be ways. Shorter sentences, shorter scenes, more action, more whatever it is it's about, more singing and dancing. I don't know what kind of work it is, but that's the point of writer's block, is that you're not actually saying this is boring. You're saying, I am afraid it will be boring. And so therefore I am pulling back on it. I am taking it off the table. That's bad. That's not what artists do. What artists do is do the best they can. Okay, there are people out there. There's a guy named Zack Snyder, okay? Hugely successful director, makes a lot of comic book movies. Some people absolutely love his work. Other people absolutely hate his work. Is he bad or is he good? Okay? If you were Zack Snyder and you were like, oh, some people think I'm bad, I shouldn't finish this, you wouldn't get your work done. That's at the highest level where you're making millions of dollars, okay? So that is true of every artist all the time. Some people will like it and some people won't. Some of your work will be better than others of your work. If you're the Beatles, okay? No, some people don't like the Beatles at all, but the point is, among the Beatles' catalog of songs, some of them are better than others. Some of them, and by the way, when I say better, I don't mean more popular. I don't mean made more money. I mean, some people like, also, they changed. They're different. How do you compare an early rock and roll song with a complex later rock and roll song? They're both good in their own ways. This I think it's bad, almost meaningless. More or less the question is, what do you like in art? Why are you doing the art in the first place? That's the question. Gene, I'm so glad you think so. All right. Yes, the painting. Yes, I think I know the painting. It's the one with the woman with the very pointy nose and the very pale skin. Anyway, Sargent is great. Oh, good. Thanks. Love me do. Yeah. See, some people love me do. Other people think, it's kind of dopey, but Strawberry Fields is great. Okay, is it a question? A good idea to write a book with two main characters, but each chapter is one of their views of story. Well, that can be a good idea. There certainly are a lot of them. Here, actually, you guys, I'm going to take a second here to talk about all the light we cannot see. Hang on just a second. I gotta take you off my screen while I look something up. Anthony Doerr. Okay. Boom. 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 Okay. Boom. All right. Here we go. AK, check this out. There's more. There's two main characters. There's other characters in the story, but this book, it's a book called All the Light We Cannot See. I cannot recommend this enough for all writers, because it's really, really well written, but really, really entertainingly written and readably written. So screenwriters could learn a lot from it. But novelists, certainly, if you're trying to write a book, A.K. Sloth, All the Light We Cannot See is an extraordinary case of switching points of view and building a layered story in which the characters live very different lives but cross paths. It's exceptional. Anyway, check that out. Also, obviously Gone Girl. Gone Girl is a really fun example of different people's point of views. It doesn't alternate, but it does shift points of views. There's lots of good books where you have main characters and they have different views on what happened. That is a completely acceptable thing. The other thing I would say is, for all of this, you want to hang on, take art apart. If you came up with a story, you probably came up with the story partly because you were influenced by some other story. And if you were, watch that over and over. Study, how did something you liked work? What were the mechanics? What were the techniques? What is the style? What is the method by which they did it? Then you want to analyze that and steal it. And by steal, I mean take it and make it your own. That is what stealing is. Stealing does not mean copying. It means taking it and making it your own. And indeed, Rashomon is a famous Japanese movie in which you deal with that question. What do I think of Richard Linklater? I think he's amazing. I think Richard Linklater is terrific. He's not big on plot. He's trying to tell stories that feel more like everyday life. They're not actually like everyday life. They're actually very well crafted, but they're exploring the experience of everyday life. And everyday life is not like a story. That's why we like stories, because they are artificial. We like stories because they are an escape from the uncertainty and confusion of real life. But some people are like, you know what would be cool? To do an artwork that's like real life. Richard Linklater is like that, and I think he is terrific. Verbose writing in the sense of Richard Linklater? I don't know. His people are, some of us think people are talky, but okay, let's get back to this. Meanwhile, yeah, actually, Jackie, that's a good question. I love the Beatles version of Eleanor Rigby, so I'm going to stick with it. But here's the thing. Eleanor Rigby is actually a really good case of character development. And of developing a bunch of characters into an image. Yes, Rashomon good. Okay. Yes, we'll all check out Jackie Wilson's thing. Hello, Errol. Or hola. Good to see it. Yeah, if you're into multiple points of view, that Anthony Doerr novel is exceptional. Okay, let me see. yeah, we have to think about I'm going to say probably Ted because McLean is less annoying. So let's see what's going on. Ted hanging around. Interesting. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. Now we definitely have to, and then, all right. So here's a question. I like this. What I'm doing is going back in the story. I do this sequence where we see Dundosky getting home. Oh, that's an interesting point. This is a good question. So this sequence, what happened is, in the script as it stands, there's a long sequence of Norman and Madeline being together, ending with them making love. And then we cut away to all the other people. Boom, 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 boom. No, boom, 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 boom. Anyway, a lot of those scenes are the ones that have to change. Because one of them is Dundosky getting home. And if we want Dundosky to be there, then he wouldn't be getting home. So... all right, so that's good. Okay. Okay, my main character in my TV pod is a giant Beatle fan. Met them and they donated. That's cool. That's great. Deep dive on the Sound and the Fury. Yes, that has 4 points of view on similar. Yes. One of the things I would say, the reason I wouldn't recommend Sound and the Fury is because Sound and the Fury is extremely challenging. It is different points of view, but those points of view are written in complex, subtle, and frankly difficult to read language. And what I was trying to do was say, if you're trying to learn to write screenplays, you don't want to read Faulkner, or certainly not late Faulkner, because the point is a certain amount of narrative clarity in changing point of views. So that's why I was suggesting All the Light You Cannot See, because it's done it with, frankly, exceptional clarity. So yes, there's a lot of great novels, including The Sound and the Fury, in which they shift points of view. Absolutely. That is a great thing. Howard's End by E.M. Forrester. There's endless points of view books. I was trying to point AK towards things that were going to be useful for studying how to build your narrative in an accessible way. Okay, so now what I've done is I've gotten my pieces into my outline, the things to do and I've got them in these other colors so that I will say, I have not yet finished this work. Now, this is a good question. So, I think Cameron is in this scene. The question is she FaceTiming or Zooming? So I'm going to say, all right. What I'm doing is I'm just working out the logic. By the way, this is for those of you who are worried about being creative and logic. It's a balance. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm saying I've got this creative instinct, this feeling that I want these people to be together. Now I have to think out, practically speaking, how are they going to do that? Realistically, if Cameron is in California and all the other people are in Pennsylvania, it's either going to be some kind of video conference like FaceTime or Zoom, or telephoning, and it's all audio. And what I'm doing is just putting down different possibilities. And now this is it. And I really did try to talk about this a lot in the brainstorming video. That's what I'm doing here, actually. I am trying to break my challenge into small, specific questions, like how is Cameron there? And then what I'm doing is running through every possibility I can think of. And then among them, I start to have an instinctive feeling. I don't think she's phoning Xena. Xena is too focused on the interaction with the serial killer. She would not pay any attention to Cameron. So therefore, she is FaceTiming or phoning another because Xena won't pick up. Where is Cameron? Home on her computer? Okay, so this is good. yeah. Faulkner. Okay, first of all, the book itself is pretty iffy on logic, and second of all, Faulkner working on the script. Now and then you get some great writer who went to Hollywood for money. Once again, this is actually a really important point. Everyone always considers Hollywood and the movies as somehow this fountain of money, and that as an artist, it's like, oh, I got to go there and get the money. And so you get people like F. Scott Fitzgerald and William Faulkner, some of the great Dorothy Parker, some of the great minds of the 20th century, creative artists of the 20th century, going to Hollywood because they desperately need money. And it worked out terribly for all of them. It was a disaster. So why don't we notice that and stop thinking that somehow or other the money is easy to pick up in Hollywood? It's not. Okay. Could you fictionalize the way they have the meeting? Give yourself. I'm not sure what you mean by fictionalize. You mean like make it in some non-realistic form? I mean, I am fictionalizing. This is all fictional. So therefore, I'm not sure what you mean by the way they have the meeting. Oh, do you mean like instead of Zoom, make up a fictional Zoom? Yes, that's actually a cool idea. And I will make a note of that. Maybe make up a fictional Zoom type tech so I can. Well, the thing about that is that then you have to explain it, whereas everybody knows Zoom, and Zoom basically does what I needed to do. So I'm not sure. Yes, it's a dance between logic and creativity. Absolutely. All art is a mixture of emotion and feeling and instinct and talent and craft, technique, business, reality. You're constantly working with both of those. That is a balance. You do not do one or the other. You have to constantly be saying a little of this, a little of that. Some of this gets influenced by that. And that's actually helpful. It's actually satisfying. If you go all logic, it's kind of no fun. If you go all feeling, it's kind of useless, incoherent. So therefore, The balance is the game. Getting comfortable with balancing. I'm actually doing this massive video on that. That'll take a long time. Okay. Money can't buy you love. That is so true. Beatles and cinema. Yes, Barton Fink also, as we add Fink and Faulkner. And hey, everybody. Everyone's saying hello to each other. That's good. So, this is good. We actually got, in the midst of all this, a lot accomplished here. So I will do more tomorrow. That's my plan. Okay, so thank you guys. I had a great time being with you, and I will see you tomorrow when we will continue to do this and to discuss our many issues. In the meantime, go write something.